What's going on, everyone? Gotta be quick here. We're about to open on Sunday, Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all you wonderful dads out there, or people that act as dads in people's lives. Um, we try to we try to keep it to the pulse here as much as we can. So I believe it was a day or two ago, Asmodee announced a price increase in the U.S. only. So this is kind of long overdue, based on the economic climate, what's been going on, and the only reason it's really news, and the real reason I want to make a video about it is because of the the comments, that people were making in the press release, just show how out of touch people are with like just business and how things are done, and how products come to market, and just how the world works right now. And it's something as simple as like, people saying like, "Oh, this is what Asmodee gets." They could have just made products in the U.S. They could have just flipped a switch and had all of a sudden turned on all their American factories and made Marvel Crisis Protocol. And this is the box I pulled off. Right, this is not a great seller. Marvel Crisis Protocol and Star Wars Shatterpoint and the new Star Wars Legion stuff. They could have just started making it in the U.S. And it's kind of insane to think that that's something that can be done this quickly, and or even at all. Like let's take a step back. Let's just look at some basic numbers, right? Like, and you can go watch a previous video we made about this kind of topic with Catalyst. Catalyst Game Labs was really, the guys who make BattleTech, really open about this sort of thing, and they were just sharing all the numbers that they're putting out there, about like, in order to get, luckily I'm right here by the BattleTech wall, in order to get like a box set of like 4 or 5 mechs, like their cost to make something like this is like $4 to $6. And then that equates to a product that's like basically like $40, on the retailer shelf. And people are like, how is that possible? And it's literally all the hands it touches along the way, right? Like, we're not talking about something that's printed in China and like is shipped directly to the customer. We're talking about something that has to make its way across the sea. And shipping is probably the biggest factor in how much these things cost. And then the distributor needs to get their money, and then little old Chris and Jay at Timmy's Games and Hobbies is taking your money or whatever, and we're the ones ripping you off or whatever. So that's just the reality. Like, I think it's just interesting to work your way backwards to be like, oh, these two models are $45-$50. Holy cow. And then but like thinking about like all the stuff that goes into making something like this in the modern world, and all the hands it touches, and all the people that need to eat along the way, right? And as a consumer, I don't, like, I do empathize, because like I'm a consumer too, like, not just, obviously a little biased in the hobby world, but like, I have my things that I'm interested in outside of this, and I still buy groceries and things like that, and I empathize. I understand. Like, it's hard to expect the consumer to understand, like, why are 2 models this much money, and why does it have to go up? Why does it have to go up, right? And this, we're really talking about just the economics of everything that goes into making this. Like, just for example, let's take this product here, and well, you know what? Actually, let's do it. Let's keep it apt to the actual video we're making here. So the average Chinese worker, according to the data I was looking at, makes between $1.50 and $4 something an hour. That's in American dollars, to make stuff like this, to manufacture these miniatures. And the average American factory worker makes in the $18 to $20 range. And I'm talking more on the low end here. I'm not talking like a floor supervisor or someone who's got like a specialized craft or something like that. Someone who's operating these like machines that are they're not simple machines. They're dangerous. They're complex. So just think about that. Like, that labor cost per hour that directly goes into the price of this. So, and remember, we're putting that price into let's assume this is like $4 or whatever to the consumer. Like it's around $4 to $6 for the company to make or whatever cost in terms of just like what the printer charges them to make it. And imagine that number is now inflated by that percentage of labor going up, right? That's just a simple sort of like economical thing you can kind of like do in your head and be like, oh, what would it actually cost? Would it cost $8 a unit? Would it cost $10 a unit? And now you're taking that and now you're going to multiply that to get to where your retailer kind of end user thing is, right? So does this go up to $80? Does it go up to $100? Does it go up to $120? I don't know exactly, right? And I'll push back on that a little bit. Obviously, I'm not going to say like that's just like the simple kind of like looking at like how could we do this thing, right? Obviously, there's companies that have figured this out, right? Like we were talking about in an earlier tariff video. Games Workshop has a massive advantage because they have somehow figured out how to manufacture their products in the UK. They've spent the good portion of 30 years refining their process and becoming vertically integrated so that they can withstand stuff like this, right? They have a very sophisticated production facility and they pay UK wages to make their products. And what do they get for it? They get nothing but complaints from the consumer about prices. So, I mean, like, to make plastic miniatures in, a country that has, $15, let's just say average minimum wage or whatever, has working condition standards, has a little bit more strict sort of like regulations, regarding that sort of stuff. It's pretty impressive. And maybe that just doing this video, like maybe gives you a little bit more insight into be like, well, maybe the Games Workshop prices aren't unfair for what they, for what they're doing, compared to like, what companies like this are charging for their product and it's still made in China, right? Now, I want to give them some, credit. Obviously, like they are a much smaller company, like people that are working here. They don't have that like decades of experience and sophisticated sort of like the actual startup capital to do something like that would be probably pretty astronomical. And I'm not sure that Asmodee or whoever is kind of dictating that kind of decision-making process, is even interested in doing something like that, right? With the current market conditions and what's going on. So for now, all you're going to get is reactionary price increases based on the tariff situation and then also like global shipping conditions and the cost of all that stuff. This stuff is going to be the most susceptible to all those things because we're talking like these go on those big shipping containers that come across the world. And so they're super reactive to shipping price increases. They're super reactive to any of the global tariff condition changes. And all of the people in the comments that can hate me and tear me up saying they should just eat the price on this. They're not that big. They're not that big a company. Like, sorry, Asmodee's a big company, but like the people making these, like the miniature division, it's not like they have this like infinite budget, right? So they have to turn a profit. They have to make money for the company. Otherwise, a company like Asmodee would be like, why are we making miniatures? Why are we making cool little Marvel figures if people are complaining about the price of making this like really niche, really super niche item? Like this isn't even a toy. This isn't even as popular as like making these in toy form. This is like a niche in a niche, right? Making miniatures of a Marvel character, right? So just keep that in mind. Obviously I made this video to piss everybody off. And that's just something to consider as you're kind of like taking a look at like all these, press releases that are going to be coming out in the next few weeks about like companies are finally settling in and saying like, what's the cost of this? They probably have been maybe for the first couple months just eating it on the chin a little bit just to see where it actually ends up. And then like they don't want to make any rash decisions because then they might have to change their prices again. And it kind of looks bad if you're changing your price every month. So they probably settled in on this like, well, 15% is probably, they're still probably eating a little bit on the US side. And then they're hoping globally that kind of makes up for it. So hopefully you enjoyed that video. Short and sweet. That's what's going on with Asmodee. So if you're in the US, that sucks. I'm sorry. Everywhere else, it sounds like it's going to be the same. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Check us out. Our other YouTube channel, Lords of War Games and Hobbies. Hobby channel, I think it's called. It's so new still. And you can check us out on Patreon if you want to support us. We appreciate you. Take care.